Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Accountant. Today, I'm joined by two very special guests who both had bags of experience in what it takes to run a thriving accountancy practice. We have Mark Telford, chartered accountant and coach for accountants. We also have a longtime fan of the show, James Ashford, VP of GoProposal, author of Selling to Serve and Untapped, and a general LinkedIn legend. Welcome, guys, to the show. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited. And I mean, talking about you sort of briefly touched on, you didn't have a lot of experience in sales and things like that at the beginning. I mean, I think when you work in a bigger practice or you work somewhere else, you kind of have a support team, a network, and infrastructure that supports you in your practice. I certainly felt when I moved over into working by myself, I found more in a technical accountancy sort of aspect, how I would second guess myself on quite easy decisions on things that I would normally take for granted because I could pop my head around the corner and go ask the tech guy or the tax guy or this, that, and the other. And James, please get involved with this one. How would you sort of advise people who are looking to start accountancy practice to grow their support network, either before they have started or once they've sort of made the plunge into going solo?
I'm sure Mark will be able to elaborate on this better than I can, but just a couple of things there. What you said there in the idea that you see these firms, they've been going, 50 years, some of the big firms, but they were getting it wrong in year one and they just repeated it for 50 years. Like, it's not 50 years of growth of experience. It's like 50 years of repeating the same thing, perhaps. You're like, so don't be put off by these bigger companies. You can be in practice for 3 years and be kind of outshining everyone else because you've rapidly grown in that time. And also, I get to see inside lots of big firms as well. And sometimes that support structure you think is there and it's solid, but perhaps it's not. Like, there's some brilliant firms out there. We've got a great community with the GoProposal community who are very entrepreneurially driven. We keep it's a closed group. It's exclusive to GoProposal members, and the energy in that group and the willingness for everyone to share is the biggest surprise that everyone gets when they get in there. They go in and they ask a question and they can't believe how everyone dives in and supports and helps each other, and I think we've been, well, whether it's by luck or being blessed or whatever, but just to attract the right type of firm, and we're all helping each other, and that's all we can do. Throw an arm down and grab the people behind you and reach a hand up and get people to pull you up to the next level as well. There's enough business out there for the entrepreneurial firms to go and grab. And I'm a big believer, and I've learned this more in the last few years than ever before in my life, is that that group of people that you have around you, closest to you, will determine your level of success more than anything else. And that's why I like the work that Mark does with the great kind of networks and support groups that Mark sets up. He builds that structure intentionally for those firms.
That's great. It's like kind of open source accounting kind of work, isn't it? Like, you can just throw a question out there and get everyone's sort of interpretation of it. It sounds like a dream, and certainly something that I would love to get involved in, because I sometimes definitely feel a bit alone in that sense, where, I have a really good idea. I might be 90% sure, 80, anywhere between like 85 to 95% sure. But just before I click the button, I'm overthinking. And actually, I'm losing time because I'm not moving forward. I'm not streamlined. And yeah, it can be hard. So having those people around you is just must be an incredible thing.
I think the issue is that when you become an accountant, you're great at your craft and your skill. You're not great at business, right? You don't know how to recruit, how to train your team, how to price, how to sell, how to market, and all these other things. And if you're a builder or a plumber, you can hold your hand up and say, hey, I've no idea about this stuff. Can you help me? The problem with being an accountant is that you're in this professional services business. You think deep down you should know how to run a successful business. So I think it is harder for accountants to say, I've no idea. Like, an accountant you'd think would know how to price and sell their services and how to be profitable. You would think that they've been trained that, but the reality is they're not trained in how to do that. And they feel afraid to put the hand up.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But I think, and by the same token, I think that kind of flows into other things. Like, we don't know everything about tax. Like, we don't know everything about inheritance tax, or I don't know everything about VAT, or I don't know, and when you're the expert, it becomes so much harder to say, oh, I'm not sure about, like, if you're put on the spot and you're like, oh, I don't actually know the answer to that, you feel kind of a bit crap. So I don't know, or certainly I have, maybe that's something that you overcome with time. I don't know, Mark, like from a technical a tax point of view, like how you deal with those instances?
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I think this does come in with experience. The realization that you shouldn't be in a position to answer every single question a client has when they pose that question to you. Don't be expected to know everything. So I've got no issue with having a meeting with a prospect and they ask me a question. And if I don't know it, I will say, look, that's actually quite a detailed area. And rather than give you a quick answer, which may not be detailed enough for you to make a decision on, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go away, do a little bit more research on it, and give you a full and comprehensive answer. Okay. So I'm quite happy to give somebody that sort of comment. And especially if you're in a discovery call or that initial meeting with a prospect and they start firing loads of questions at you and asking you what the answer is, don't feel obligated to blurt it out and say, yeah, that's exactly the type of thing we deal with our clients. And if you were to start working with us, we'd definitely be able to help you with that.
I love that. Great bit of advice. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that with us. What do the two of you see as the role of the accountant in 2022 and beyond?
I think one of the big things is, I guess, building on the answer that Mark just gave before, you don't need to know all the answers for everything. Your clients know all the answers for what, or a lot of the answers for what they need to do in terms of how they're going to grow their business. You're sat in the chair next to them. They're the ones with their hands on the steering wheel and guiding, moving things forward. And you're there to help them and give them information to make better decisions. To my mind, one of the big roles of the accountant is holding your clients to account for what they said they would do. So if you're working with them closely in a board meeting and they say this is what they're going to do by next month, it's being that person who's going to ask those difficult questions like, why haven't we hit this? Why haven't you got that number? What is the target you want to achieve this year? And to then hold them to account for achieving that. Because to my mind, the role of the accountant is broadening, and it will continue to broaden in the sense that, we've got advisory, whatever that actually means. And there's some debate around that as well. But like moving forward, businesses are going to be expected to account for their carbon footprint as well. Well, does that now sit under the role of the accountant? Because you could argue, well, they have to account to a governing body for metrics within their business. So does that sit in with the role of the accountant because they're accounting for the actions and activities of that business? So I think it's very interesting, but that is my kind of shorter answer, is to hold your clients to account.
Yeah, definitely. And the sustainability thing, the carbon footprinting, all that, we are, as accountants, the sort of gatekeeper of a lot of information that will have to be reported. So yeah, there's, as you say, it's definitely broadening, definitely an interesting time to be an accountant, because there are so many things that we get called upon. I mean, in a previous episode a few months ago, we were talking about just, being an advisor on what tech stack to implement for a business. So having to know like what's out there, what's suitable for this particular accountant, how to implement it, how to get them trained on it, and how to keep it sort of running in their business and make sure there are no issues with what you've sort of advised on is probably going to be a job in and of itself. And I don't know if, Mark, you've had any experience with that kind of thing, people asking you those types of questions.
I think it goes broader than that, Mike. It's quite often accountants are they're reluctant to get involved in certain areas of a business because they don't know how to do something. So, for example, let's say we've got a client and their sales have fallen off a cliff. They've got no money coming in, they're really struggling. The accountant knows they need to do something, but they're reluctant to help the business owner because they don't know what to do. But it's going back to James's point, you don't need to know what to do. You need to ask the right questions to get the client to work out what they're going to do. And then the next time you see them, you ask them if they did it. Did they do it? No. Why not? It wasn't the right thing. Right. What's the right thing to do? Are you going to do that? Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's report on that in 30 days or whatever it may be. It's, profit improvement, cash flow management, reducing costs. The accountant doesn't have to do it, but they can explain to the client, if you do it, this is what impact it will have on your business. Now, if you're going to do it, what do you need to do to make it happen?
Yeah,
it's that accountability. So it's measure, review, So it's a set of accounts, a management report, meeting, measure, review, and improve. You set some goals and actions for the next month, 90 days, and you just keep moving on like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you know what as well? Like if I think back to our journey with GoProposal and what the work with my accountancy place was, they were very aware of what I wanted to achieve personally as well. And the more you can ask about that, what a client wants to achieve personally, the more value you can unlock, because your value as an accountant is directly proportional to the size of the problems that you can solve. So they knew that we wanted Becky to leave employment, wanted to buy a house closer to the kids' school, and we wanted to book a holiday to Lapland one of the years, right? So not only were they holding us to account for what we're doing in our business, but they were like, has Becky put a notice in yet? Where are you with that house move? Have you got the house? Have you booked the holiday to Lapland yet? Why not? I remember Paul ringing me up, giving me grief, saying, why haven't you booked the holiday? Why are we doing what we're doing if it's not to have great experiences with your kids? Ring me back and tell me when you've got the holiday booked to Lapland. And like, I seem to think we had a couple of drinks when he had that conversation with me. But I remember ringing Becky up and saying, get the holiday book now and ring me back as soon as it's done. But it's holding them to account to help them to make the right decisions to move them forward, not only in their business, but personally as well, because that's what the business is there to do.
Yeah, 100%. So holding them accountable, it's like a holistic job now. Like it transcends the business in and of itself. It's like helping the directors, the business owners, shareholders, whatever, to achieve their dreams and their goals and their ambitions. I mean, to me, this sounds very different from the traditional accounting, what people have been doing over the past 20, 30 years. Like those days are sort of gone, and it's a new breed of accounting that's we're talking like time is infinite. We've got all the time in the world to help our clients with everything that they need. Just tell us what you need, we'll sort it out for you. In reality, time is finite. Sometimes we're working by ourselves in our office. We might take on a lot of work. We have our best intentions to work. And sometimes we feel overwhelmed. We are swamped with work, getting calls left, right, and center, and just basically keeping our head above the water. So in that sense, the kind of working in the business takes precedence, and the bit about working on the business falls by the wayside. And I think over a number of months, years, we can quite quickly just lose track of the direction that we wanted to go in. Maybe, and again, that's because we're not in the habit of working on the business. How do you guys suggest that people can kind of find time, carve it out, some time to just actually work on the business and improving that aspect rather than purely focusing on delivering?
Yeah, I think first off, Mike, I don't really like this distinction between working in the business and working on the business. I think essentially you've got a business and you've got to plan, you've got to then deliver, you've then got to review and improve. So it should all be wrapped up in that. There should be different elements in what you do that fit into all of that. So if I go back to the start, I didn't do enough planning, 100% didn't do enough planning. So we then go out and win work, we then deliver work, and I'll be thinking, some bits we haven't done here, right? We need to change what we're doing here. What do we need to change and how are we going to do it? So that was just part of the process. It was continual, just continual reviewing and improving, changing. And if I even look back to the last 6 months, we've had more change in the last 6 months than probably the previous 5 years, just in terms of what we do, because it's just about improving. And I think if you ever get into the situation where you're just processing, you're not going to improve because you're not giving yourself the time to look to see how you can improve everything. And something that was said to me probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I use it as a bit of a mantra now, is you need to hire before you need to. And this is this idea, before you reach capacity, you need to hire a new team member, because once you hit capacity, it's too late to get somebody else on board, because that's when you are in that trap of you're too busy doing the work to be able to work on the business, so to speak. So I think what you need to do is you just need to find the time in your week, in your month. And if I look at what we do now, Monday mornings for me are all planning. I have team meetings. You have a review, see what we're going to be doing for the week ahead. So we've got these weekly tactical meetings. And then we have a monthly strategic meeting with the client managers, all focused on what we're going to be looking to do. So it's we've got a really clear strategy what we're doing for the next 12 months. So the tactical side, the goals and the actions that follow behind that, they're all aligned to that strategy that we've got for the next 12 months.
How do you think that translates to a sole practitioner? Like how would they sort of go about it? Because obviously you're talking about it with, your managers, staff. If you're by yourself, like how would you still carve out that same amount of time? Or
yeah, you still need that time, and it may be that support circle that you spoke about at the start. There might be another business owner, another accountant that you know, or a group. It could be online. So like James said, the GoProposal Facebook group is fantastic, and I would say that's a sort of development that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years, really, that is completely different to when I started my practice, because there wasn't anything like that around. Yeah. And that really allows people to fast track getting the business to where they want it to be. And I'd even be inclined to say, sign up and subscribe to GoProposal even before you started to practice, just so you can get in that Facebook group.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably what I'm going to do after this. James, you shared actually a really lovely anecdote once about lumberjack. Do you remember it?
I do remember it, yeah. So it's not my story. I have stolen it. Any good stories I tell, be fully aware I will have stolen it from someone else. I try to give people credit. But it's, 2 woodcutters cutting wood all day long, and one of them keeps taking breaks and the other just chops wood all day. And every single day, the guy that keeps taking breaks has got a far bigger pile of wood. And this goes on for months. And eventually the guy who's not achieving as much says to the guy who keeps taking breaks, how do you keep chopping more wood than me every single day? You're taking these breaks and I'm just working flat out. And the guy said, I'm not taking breaks. I'm sharpening my axe. And taking time out of your business to work on your business. I get Mark's phrase. I get Mark's thinking about that. It is time to sharpen your axe. You can move things forward. But what I would say is, above and beyond working on your business or working in your business, is working on yourself. It's the biggest thing to work on. So in my book Untapped, so I took 100 firms last year, and I worked with them over the space of 30 days. And within 30 days, I got them all to increase their revenue by over £1 million in ARR from existing clients alone, largely for the same work they're already doing. So I worked with them for 30 days. And the biggest piece of work I did in them 30 days was working on them, getting them to challenge their thinking, because the way that we price, the way that we value ourselves, our relationship to money is hardwired into us from being a young age, right? So there's so much unpicking and thinking that we have to do. The technicalities of how do you price and sell? Well, you need a price list. Well, I can give you one of them through GoProposal. I can figure it out for you how you should be charging. I can give you the exact pricing matrix you use. It takes me 3 minutes. Within an hour of signing up for GoProposal, I'll show you how to go and sell it to the client. However, if in your head you're thinking, yeah, but there's no way I can sit in front of someone who's paying £975 a year and start charging them 25 grand a year. If you think you can't give that value and there's no way you can have that conversation, it doesn't matter what I give you. So you have to work on yourself more. It's the biggest thing. And it's something that will never, ever end. It's a continual thing from now on and forevermore. And that was, if I look back on me, that was my breakthrough when I started working on me and my journey that I went on.
And that's it. It's really true, because it is all about your mindset, and you're limiting yourself with your thoughts. So yeah, and I reckon that probably for a lot of people listening to this is something that they would really love to work on. And let's start with the community, I guess, and just see what everybody else is doing, because I think that's really inspirational. But then the rest of it is about making things a habit and making things continual and consistent, so that you can see. And once you start seeing the results, it kind of builds confidence, I think, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I say is set the bar low. Like people say, set the bar high, set the bar low, because by setting the bar low, what you fundamentally do is change your trajectory that you're on. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're not staying the same. So you're either heading down or you're heading up. And by setting the bar low, increasing a client's fee by £11 a month, rather than discounting it by £5 a month, may not change the world, but it changes your trajectory. And then you have the next conversation and the next one. So you've got to get on with it. And I love what Mark does. And I love Mark championing things in the community. Whenever Mark weighed in on a conversation, I know it's going to be heading in the right direction. There's a big thread I've started recently about, should you charge for onboarding? Should you charge an onboarding fee? And I believe you should. And that could be upwards of £500 to onboard a client. Everyone's saying, you can't do that. It's unethical. You'll lose your clients. And Mark's wading in going, why? Why do you think you're going to lose clients? Why can't you charge for it? And so we're exploring that now as a community to say, what can it be done? Why would it be done? And what's the right way to do it? And that's really exciting.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. It's really, really good. And it's good that you're challenging all the sort of stereotypes as well of what should be done, and exploring things like ethics and what's right and what's wrong. It's really cool. I mean, as I keep saying it, but I really, really want to get involved in it. So I will do. But obviously I'm conscious of time because you guys need to head off and stuff. So what was the fastest lesson that you learned when you start your business? When you started your business, should I say?
Get clients paying by direct debit.
Yeah.
Straight up. Get them rolling, get that money coming in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing that Mark said as well, so just to back up what Mark said, was that when he first started, he was trying to replace his salary. So he wasn't putting his clients at the center. He put himself at the center, which is the exact right thing to do. The only thing truly unique about Mark's accounting business, it's the only business, or one of the only businesses, designed to give him the life that he wants. And he recognized that early on. And so he built the business around giving him the life that he wants, which is the right way to go about it. And I think so to my mind, the priority is you. The second priority is your team, and the third priority is your clients. And if you get that order wrong, then you'll build a business that won't be able to serve the clients as much as you want to.
Yeah, I think we're definitely sort of fed the narrative that the client comes first. And that's how we end up with like overwhelm and stress and tiredness and scope creep and all of these kinds of things. James, I know you've had a number of businesses, but what was the quickest lesson that you learned? Doesn't have to be accountancy related.
One of the if I think about GoProposal and how we was able to scale that with no investment, in a challenging industry with fierce competition, was just share everything, just give it all away. Like we throughout social media, you will see us post on a daily basis, and it's not this idea of producing content. It's the idea of just documenting what's happening. Every single accountancy firm on here will be helping several clients today, whether it's on a phone call or on an email or whatever. You've given some advice, you've helped people. Well, why aren't you then sharing that same advice wider? Obviously, you can't say this is what you should do. You can't instruct people because you don't know their circumstances, but you can share anecdotes of how you've helped someone else today with the same question, for example. And not to do it, to my mind, is selfish. So my big thing is give it all away. Knowledge has no value. Just because, if you give it away, the right clients are not going to go and take that and do it themselves. Yeah, they're going to still need to come to you to get that, to help them to take the actions that's needed. So yeah, just share and help as many people as possible, and social platforms allow you to do that.
For sure. And karma will come back around, right?
I hope so. But if it doesn't, you can't help, you can't give 99% away and with it thinking that 1% of you wants it to come back. Has to be 100%. You have to give it away with no expectation. And then, like you say, hopefully karma lends a hand.
I completely agree. Guys, it's been an absolute honor having you on the show. I'm so pleased that we managed to do this. Thanks for sharing all this like amazing insight. I'm sure everybody's going to be so excited to listen to it and kind of propel their businesses forward. And I certainly am. I'm feeling great. And I hope you guys enjoyed your time.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for having us, Mike.
I appreciate
thank you, Mike. And if you people who aren't following Mark, I would just encourage you to follow him if you're in this space. Just someone that I really respect in this space, doing great things, champion. JFDI is his most common hashtag that he puts on most threads, but he's absolutely right. You've got to do, you'll figure that out, Mike. You've got to make decisions and get on with it and do it. So what I love about what Mark's doing is just championing, actions, doing incredible things in his own firm as he's illustrated here, but supporting and helping many other firms do that as well. So just applaud you for doing that, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Nice one, guys. Thank you so much. I'll leave you to go on to your next meetings. or enjoy the weather, whatever you're doing this afternoon.
School run.
Cheers. Yeah, school runs. Thank you.
Oh, that's coming up for me soon, I tell you.
To make sure you catch every episode, subscribe to the channel or sign up to the Sage Advice newsletter at the bottom of the page.